InvestorIdeas.com podcasts.
Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcasts. In today's podcast, going to be looking at a few public company announcements from Canopy Growth Corporation, trading on the TSX as weed and the NASDAQ as CGC, the Supreme Cannabis Company Incorporated, trading on the TSX as fire and the OTCQX as SPRWF, Pure Extracts Technologies Corporation, trading on the CSE as POLL and the OTC as PRXTF, Hollister Biosciences Incorporated, trading on the CSE as HOLL and the OTC as HSTRF, as well as, again, CURA Holdings Incorporated, trading on the CSE as CURA and the OTCQX as CURLF. First, looking at a joint announcement between Canopy Growth Corporation and the Supreme Cannabis Company Incorporated, who announced that they've entered into a definitive arrangement agreement under which Canopy will acquire all of the Supreme Cannabis issued and outstanding common shares in a transaction valued at approximately $435 million on a fully diluted basis. Now, under the terms of the arrangement agreement, Supreme Cannabis shareholders will receive 0.0116572 of a Canopy common share and 0.001 in cash in exchange for Supreme Cannabis Company share held. And the transaction provides Supreme Cannabis shareholders with a premium per Supreme Cannabis share of approximately 66% on the closing price of Supreme Cannabis shares and Canopy common shares on the TSX exchange as of April 7th. Now, the transaction is expected to provide several benefits for both Canopy and Supreme Cannabis shareholders. Notably, following the completion of the acquisition, Canopy will possess a strengthened brand portfolio, including one of Canada's leading premium brands, 7 Acres. Brand growth is anticipated with distribution supported by Canopy's robust sales and distribution network, as well as superior consumer insights and R&D capabilities. And in addition to receiving a market premium, Supreme Cannabis shareholders will also benefit from Canopy's U.S. CBD business and conditional positioning for continued exposure to the U.S. market expansion. And further value will be derived through a scalable Kincardine, Ontario production facility, which has demonstrated record of production premium flower at low cost. There's more key transactional highlights that you can look at in the article attached or in the link in the article as well. As we continue to expand our leading brand portfolio, we're excited to reach more consumers through Supreme's premium brands and high-quality products, further solidifying Canopy's market leadership, said David Klein, Chief Executive Officer of Canopy. Supreme's deep commitment to superior genetics, top-tier cultivation, and strict quality control, paired with Canopy's leading consumer insights, advanced R&D, and innovation capabilities, is expected to create a powerful combination that aligns with our strategic focus to generate growth with premium quality products across key categories. So there is, just to be aware, there is currently a little bit of debate on this transaction right now. There's an investigation going on to see if the Supreme Cannabis gave enough fiduciary responsible insight towards their shareholders pre this announcement. But other than that, this does seem to be going through and really is a good testament to Supreme Cannabis Company's brand, the 7 Acres brand. Again, when you're looking at what's going on in general trends in the cannabis market right now, this very much falls in line with Canopy Growth's acquisitions over the last year to 2 years, focusing on specifically received brands, both in the Canadian and U.S. market, and acquiring them under their portfolio. And again, this also speaks towards the consolidation in the industry, which is going on quite rapidly right now. A lot of that was being pushed by the Aurora and Tilray announcement. With that sort of in the mix, there's now a lot of different companies that are looking to expand and get more aggressive. Again, I'll be talking about Curaleaf later, who is another huge global player. And as really this industry does start to get to a much more aggressive competitive state, there's going to be more need for consolidation and for a lot of these smaller successful brands to go under a larger company umbrella for the distribution access that will give them. So I do think that this is a benefit for both Supreme Cannabis and Canopy Growth. And again, really good testament to the 7 Acres brand. Be interesting to see how this transaction goes through and how that leads into the rest of the year. Moving on to Pure Extracts Technologies Corporation, who announced the signing of a letter of intent with an affiliate of a publicly traded multi-state operator to form a joint venture to install a cannabis and hemp extraction system in an existing Michigan facility. Now, this MSO has a long history of success in Oregon, offering a family of products including sun-grown and indoor premium flower, along with patented nitro-sealed indoor and sun-grown pre-rolls in jars. And Pure Extracts is a plant-based extraction company focused on cannabis, hemp, functional mushrooms, and rapidly emerging psychedelic sector for the state-of-the-art processing facility located just north of Whistler, BC. Now, in Michigan, the company plans to join forces by combining the MSO affiliates' local permitting, accessing, licensing, and marketing expertise with Pure Extracts extraction, vape, live resin, and edibles manufacturing skills. And the venture partners plan to build out a 2,600 square feet of existing underutilized space in the MSO's current facility, which is strategically located in central Michigan within a 2-hour drive of several major markets. Now, Pure Extracts expects to contribute a mix of equipment and cash to the venture, which will allow the partners to rapidly scale up to meet the rising demand of recreational cannabis concentrates and edibles throughout the state. And Michigan is anticipated to follow similar consumer trends and patterns experienced in other states such as California and Colorado, where sales of extracts and concentrates eventually overtook sales of dried flower. And Bruce Linton, the co-founder and former CEO of cannabis giant Canopy Growth and executive chairman of the Michigan-based and newly public Gage Growth Corporation, recently commented in Forbes that Michigan is one of the fastest growing cannabis markets in the U.S. And according to the Michigan Marijuana Regulatory Agency, during February of this year, Michigan cannabis sales increased 160% from a year ago to 106.2 million, with medical sales improving 48% to 38.1 million, and adult use sales soaring 353% to 68.1 million. Pure Extract CEO Ben Nikolovsky remarked, "We are really excited about launching our first U.S. initiative into the dynamic Michigan market, especially with experienced and entrenched partners. There's a strong demand throughout the state for the products we know best: full spectrum oil, vapes, live resin, concentrates, and edibles. And with immediate access to the MSO's affiliates, 100 plus dispensary customers out of Michigan's nearly 400 licensed dispensaries, we expect to see products to be distributed on shelves in the fourth quarter of this year." So again, expansion of the company's operations in Michigan are subject to compliance with the applicable state laws concerning cannabis, as well as general compliance with CSE policies and Canadian securities laws. So Pure Extracts launching their extracts with a multi-state operator into Michigan does seem to be a smart move. And really, just when you're looking at the overall trends, whether you're looking at the States or Canada, extracts is eventually going to be a much bigger element than the dried flower sales. Again, I've talked a lot about how very likely you will see the dried flower sales go into more of a niche segment of the market, where you're going to have people buying certain rare cultivars and premium brands, as opposed to, again, buying your half ounces and ounce portions. Even still, those might be there, but they'll be at a really low cost production point. So I do think that a lot of the mid-priced cannabis dried flower is going to slowly start disappearing from the market and start being turned into cannabis 2.0 products, very specifically your live resins. That does seem to be the overall trend that's dominating. Hash is, again, a little bit more niche. When you're looking at the distillate cartridges, that still is a big area. But as more and more people start educating themselves on overall cannabis products, honey oil might stay in the distillate category, but I think that overall your actual watered down distillate oils are going to start disappearing in favor of either honey oil or live resin. Again, offering that full spectrum experience is going to be more the dominant factor, and that is an element that Pure Extracts does quite well at. So I think that they'll have some good success in Michigan. And again, I would think that the end game for most of your cannabis markets, when you're looking at how this is going to play out maybe 2 to 3 years down the road, still heavily leaning towards beverages. Again, that is just the consumption form that too many people are already used to, and you eventually will be able to be putting very, very high-end cannabinoid products into pretty much any type of beverage. Again, there's more and more companies focusing on water solubility for cannabinoids, more and more companies focusing on how to get a full spectrum experience into a beverage, and a lot of them are succeeding. And right now, you're not seeing a heavy drive for that in Canada, mainly due to dosage restrictions. In the United States, mainly due to a big part of it is just aggressive competition. There's a lot of different beverage companies popping up in a lot of different states. And so you're not really seeing any one brand go overly dominant. A lot of them are also focusing much more on CBD beverages right now, as that's the easier sort of market to enter into and the easier one to get your products to market quicker. And then a big issue that did affect a lot of the more advanced states, for instance, California, Colorado, Nevada, was dosage control in the opposite end of the spectrum, whereas in Canada you had an issue where there's still too low of a dosage to attract the average cannabis consumer. In the US, they had a lot of beverages that were launched early with extremely high doses, which did turn some consumers away. So obviously, again, it will end up somewhere in the middle there. But again, when you're looking at the long term, having the ability to turn cannabinoids into your water soluble form, which most of these companies are pretty heavily focusing on, and being able to offer the full spectrum experience through your beverage or your cannabis 2.0 or 3.0 product, it's going to become pretty essential. So companies like Pure Extracts are definitely setting themselves up for success by focusing on earlier markets like Michigan and seeing how that's going to play out over the next year or so. Moving on to Hollister Biosciences, who I've mentioned about their Easy Riders products a couple of times now, but that officially hits the road this month with premium pre-rolled packs in silver or black collectible tins featuring the iconic Easy Riders logo. Now, each pack contains 10.2 gram pre-rolls designed for quick, socially discreet ways to medicate, microdose, and elevate for on the go or sharing with friends. The silver tin features pre-rolled made with the artisan sherbet strain, Girl Scout cookies, and pink panties genetics, while the pre-rolls in the black tin feature lush ice cream cake flour, which is wedding cake and gelato number 33 genetics, and both are terpene-rich indica-dominant hybrids that may promote stress release, physical relaxation, and uplifting moods. And the initial products in the Easy Riders line will be available at dispensaries throughout California, and the line will expand later this summer with the introduction of a topical tattoo balm. Hollister Biosciences, commenting on this, my vision for Hollister has always been to pay homage to the amazing biker culture that has permeated the global landscape over the past few decades by combining it with the amazing cannabis products, said Carl Saling, the co-founder and CEO and director of Hollister Biosciences. Easy Riders is one of the most iconic and recognizable global biker brands with the collaborative vision of Easy Riders Pepper Foster. We're proud to now be their exclusive cannabis partner, and we look forward to producing a truly authentic experience across the cannabis SKUs we develop and distribute across America. And again, going back to one of my recent comments on Hollister Biosciences yesterday, or I believe the day before, of them partnering with Nabis Holdings in California means easier distribution of those products that'll be hitting the market in the next month. So hopefully the Easy Riders brand with Hollister Biosciences will be well received. And I do like that they're focusing on the 10-pack of 0.2 gram pre-rolls. Again, I do think that format is going to eventually become the more dominant factor when you're looking at pre-rolls. And a big reason is, again, when you're looking at these 0.5 gram and 1 gram pre-rolls, they're great. But the issue is overall shareability and consumption out on the go. You're probably not going to finish a full 1 gram joint while just walking around. You are going to finish a 0.2 gram joint or a 0.5 gram joint much easier. And again, then you're actually finishing your product as opposed to lighting it halfway down and then having to store it somewhere or get rid of it and waste the weed. And I'm not saying that there isn't a consumer market for obviously 1 gram joints, but I do think, again, you're going to probably eventually, once regulations start leveling out and they start having access to different formats and products, when you're looking at, for instance, California, you are seeing more of a focus on these 10 packs and then more of a focus on the blunts and really large format joints and blunts. And I do think that, again, similarly to what you're going to see with cannabis dry flower, where you're going to have this go into a really low cost SKUs as well as really high end rare SKUs and not a lot of your middle priced products. Similarly, I think the pre-roll market will do the same, where you're going to have a lot of these 10 pack cheaper formats, which are a little bit more like the cigarette sort of version and packaging. And then you're going to have these super over the top ludicrous large blunts, the moon rocks, etc., where that's really for the person who is a bit more of a connoisseur and likes to have a large format joint or blunt. There is still a market for that, but again, I think that those consumers as well aren't really looking for a 1 gram simple pre-roll. They're looking for something that's a little bit more high end, probably wrapped in better papers or better hemp leaves or actually blunt wraps. Again, probably having a much higher potency and over towards like a 2 gram to possibly 3 gram format. And that'll be, again, once you have the ability to sell larger format products. Again, when you're looking at California, a lot of those types of products already are on the market and doing quite well, and it is starting to remove the sort of sales of those 1 gram format pre-rolls. Lastly today, looking at Curaleaf Holdings Incorporated, who I've already talked about a couple times this week regarding aggressive expansion, which is continuing as they announce new Curaleaf branding for the company's recently acquired retail locations and the opening of 2 locations in Horsham and Philadelphia. Now, the new Curaleaf branded stores mark the company's 11th and 12th locations in Pennsylvania, and as a vertically integrated cannabis operator known for quality, expertise, and reliability, Curaleaf is the largest national cannabis retail brand in the U.S. and will have 104 locations across 23 states following the opening of the 2 new Pennsylvania dispensaries. So, you can read the rest of the details in the article attached or click the links attached in the article, but essentially Curaleaf continuing their expansion, this time specifically in now Pennsylvania. And really when you're just looking at, again, where this industry is heading in the next couple of years, Curaleaf as a multi-state operator is definitely one of the most dominant players in the U.S. right now. Again, they will be probably competing with Canopy Growth, with the Tilray combination company, as well as a few others. But for right now in the U.S., they are definitely holding up the vast majority of the footprint, and they've done really well as when you're looking at not only their acquisitions and their store launches, but also they've done a great job with their own distribution channel, and they've done another really good job with in-house branding. A lot of their launches of their own in-house brands have been extremely well received. They're very much focusing on 2nd and 3rd generation products, not focusing on a lot of the dry herb and dry flower, which again I do think is going to become more of a niche product launch. And you're going to see that more fall into the category of micro cultivators, which Curaleaf Holdings can easily work with in the future, having such a large footprint. So I think they've focused on the right aspects. They're recently now launching into Europe as well. So as far as some of the large-scale players within the cannabis space today, they're definitely a company to pay attention to as the next couple of years roll out. And it'll be interesting to see how they do compete against some of the larger Canadian LPs. Again, there was a lot of expectation, maybe when you go back 1.5 to 2 years or earlier ago, that a lot of these large-scale Canadian producers were going to come in and buy up a vast majority of the U.S. companies, and that there wouldn't be any sort of large-scale U.S. company competition in the same scale. Obviously, there are a few, but there is still a lot of acquisitions going on from those large-scale Canadian LPs. They're all looking to get their footprint into the U.S., and that'll be interesting to see once regulations do allow for all those companies to enter into the U.S. market, how that's going to work and sort of how that competition susses out. That's all for today's podcast. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.